So we've talked about already, do you need probate if you don't have a will in place? So now what we'll cover is, do you even need probate if you have a will in place? I mean, I've had people come up to me and say, oh, we don't need to go through the probate process because we had a will. So we can just go ahead and bypass that. So what are your thoughts on that?
So that's probably one of the biggest myths that we have to demystify or deal with on probably a weekly basis. The answer is yes, we still have a probate. Okay, so the idea of probate is to transfer assets or to assist in the transfer of assets from a person who's died to a person who's living. And what a will does is it creates the guideline. We still need a court to supervise that. So what the will does is the will says, I want this asset, this house, to go to this person, which is great. Now, if I have a house that's just in my name, I have my executor, person representative, will have to show to the court what I want, and the court will supervise it. That's probate. So having a will doesn't get rid of a probate. All it does is create the directions.
So it makes things
we know
easier.
What's happening. It makes it easier, but more so it creates the direction that we want. And by way of example, if I don't have a will, the law says everything goes to my wife, which is great. That's what I would want. But what if I came and wrote a will that said, I want 10% of my money to go to my church? Well, that's not what the law mandates. So I need a will to make that gift. Now, the point of the will then, when I've died, is to put it before the court and let the court supervise the transfer of my assets, 90% to my wife, 10% to my church.
Okay.
So the will is a critical document, and it will go through a probate process.
So how much more does it simplify it or help out with the time that it takes to complete probate if you have a will in place versus if you don't have a will in place?
So in the absence of a will, we look to the statutes to figure out who the beneficiaries are, which can be very challenging. So they're called heirs. We have to locate those heirs. That can take time. So that can sometimes create a drag or delays that we don't want. Wills should eliminate that because they should be very clear as to who gets what. And so in theory, the process should be shorter. Now with that being said, when we initiate a probate, someone has to be appointed as the person representative, whether you have a will or not. We have to do certain things with publications in the newspaper and deal with creditors. That's typically with a will or without. We have to file a form in the court called an inventory. That's with a will or without. And then we have to get permission by the court to transfer assets with a will or without. So the steps are very similar. It's just who's involved that can be shortened or at least defined better when you have a will.
And if you don't have a will in place, if you have a will in place, then it's basically if there were no beneficiaries that were designated, it falls on the blood relatives first, right?
Correct.
And then if you don't have a will in place, if you do have a will in place, then that's when you can designate other beneficiaries, like a friend or, like you said, a church.
Right, correct.
Okay, great. If you found this video helpful, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. If you have questions about the probate process or have a house that you need to sell, we'd love to hear from you.